The galaxy was enormous, brutal, and full of strange rules. But no rule was more feared or more revered than the one enforced by Commander Rhiann Knox. A human, born and bred on Earth, yet hardened by solar wars and decades of zero-gravity law enforcement. The Terran Alliance sent him to the Outer Rim, far beyond civilized systems, where alien colonies still tried to resist the growing grip of order. That's where he met her. Zaina. The wild girl with emerald skin, silver hair, and eyes that burned like twin suns. She wasn't just beautiful. She was defiant, reckless, dangerous, and absolutely uninterested in bowing to any kind of rule, especially not Rhiann's. The mission had been simple: land on Halvex 9, assess reports of piracy, and negotiate peace if possible. But the moment Rhiann set foot on the planet's surface, Zaina broke protocol, stole a military glider, flew it into restricted airspace, and dared the entire Terran fleet to catch her. He did. Personally. And what followed was the start of something neither of them could explain. Rhiann had her locked in the brig, of course. Standard protocol. But Zaina didn't act like a prisoner. She lounged like a queen, smirking at every order, ignoring every rule. Her fingers drummed on the reinforced alloy table like she owned the place. "Think you can break me?" she asked, her voice a soft purr lined with threat. "I don't break people," Rhiann replied. "I teach them." "Discipline," she said, rolling the word over her tongue like it tasted strange. "It's what your people need if they want to join the Alliance." Her smile widened. "And if I don't want to join anything, Commander Knox?" He leaned forward. "Then I deal with you myself." She laughed. But something shifted in that moment. A flicker behind her eyes. A twitch in her voice. She wanted something, perhaps even expected it. That night, she escaped. Broke out of her cell using a wire hidden in her braid. Took down 2 guards. Vanished into the dense red jungle outside the ship. Rhiann didn't call for backup. He went after her alone. Tracking Zaina through the alien foliage wasn't easy. The Halvex jungles pulsed with life, bioluminescent vines twitching at his steps, chittering predators watching from above. But her trail was hot. Broken twigs, heat residue, the faint scent of her skin. He found her on a cliffside, overlooking the burning dusk. "I knew you'd come," she said without turning. "You made it easy." "No cuffs this time," she teased. "No," he said, stepping close. "This isn't about arresting you anymore." She turned slowly, her expression unreadable. "Then what's it about?" Rhiann didn't answer with words. He grabbed her wrist, spun her, and pushed her against the cold rock face. Not rough, but firm. "Commander," she said, breath-catching. "You broke protocol. You resisted the fleet. You endangered lives. And yet you're alone with me, pressing me into a cliff," she whispered. "This is your last chance," he said, voice low. "Learn. Or face real consequences." She shivered. But it wasn't from fear. Instead of fighting back, Zaina tilted her head. "Then teach me, Rhiann. But make sure your lesson sticks." His grip tightened slightly. Not to hurt, just enough to command attention. What followed was not punishment in the traditional sense. It was control. Precision. Discipline. He spoke, she listened. He moved, she followed. A test of wills, intense and breathless. By the time the twin moons rose overhead, the defiant alien girl no longer looked quite so wild. Her hair was tangled, lips parted, chest rising with unsteady rhythm. Her eyes still burned, but with something more complex than rebellion. "You hate me less now," Rhiann said. She blinked slowly. "No. I just understand you more." Back on the ship, things changed. Zaina didn't return to her cell. She was given quarters. Supervised, but not locked. She didn't break the rules again, not overtly. But she tested the edges of them constantly, always watching Rhiann to see what he'd do. One evening, she slipped into the control deck while he was alone. "You're the first person who didn't try to tame me," she said. "I didn't tame you. I taught you the cost of chaos." "You taught me something else too," she murmured. He looked at her. She smiled again, but this time, it was softer. "I'm not done learning." And neither of them were. The days aboard the cruiser grew longer and heavier with tension. Zaina's presence changed the rhythm of the ship. Technicians fumbled their tools around her. Pilots whispered in corridors. Officers stiffened when she walked past. She was still technically a detainee, but not one bound by protocol. She walked freely under Rian's watch and no one dared question why. She wasn't just alien anymore. She was his problem. Or maybe his responsibility. Rian couldn't ignore how often he caught himself watching her. Not just for signs of trouble, but because her energy was like a flame he couldn't look away from. The way she moved, fluid, powerful, aware of every eye on her, kept him alert. Every interaction between them became a quiet duel. When she showed up late to the briefing room, leaning against the wall instead of sitting in a chair, Rian didn't correct her. He merely stared. "You expect me to be quiet like the rest?" she asked, her voice teasing. "I expect you to be better," he replied. "Because you already know what happens when you're not." She tilted her head slowly, eyes gleaming. "You think I've been good? You've been tolerable. That's not what your heartbeat says." He clenched his jaw, dismissing the crew. When the room emptied, he faced her alone. "Enough games," he said. "I disagree. Zaina," he warned. But she stepped forward, until only inches remained. "You think I don't see it? The way your rules are for everyone but me? Because I know you need something else." "Oh." Her voice softened. "What do I need?" His hands found her waist before he even realized. Not gentle. Not rough. Just decisive. Structure. Boundaries. Someone who doesn't flinch when you bare your teeth. "And what do you need?" He didn't answer. Didn't have to. That night, she didn't return to her quarters. Their silence was louder than words. In his private chamber, with the stars humming through the viewport, Zaina tested every line Rian had drawn. And he made her earn every inch of freedom she wanted. Not with cruelty, but with presence. With understanding. With a kind of discipline that didn't break her, it sculpted her. Rebellious fire shaped by patient hands. By morning, neither of them were the same. But duty didn't sleep for long. A transmission cut through their newfound quiet. Pirate movement near Sector 9 Gamma. Alliance ships hit. Civilians taken. Rian suited up fast. Zaina followed, wordless. He glanced back. "This isn't your war." Her jaw clenched. "Maybe it is now." They deployed side by side. Her in light recon gear, skin gleaming beneath the plates. Him in standard black armor. They moved through the stars in synchronized formation, as if the tension that once divided them now pulsed like a shared heartbeat. The enemy vessel was massive. Old tech. Scarred hull. But heavily armed. They boarded in silence. It didn't stay quiet long. Gunfire. Chaos. Rian moved with precision. Zaina flowed like liquid shadow. They backed each other without speaking, instincts entwined. When one was vulnerable, the other shielded. At one point, cornered by two brutes, Rian fell hard. A cracked rib. Dizzy vision. Zaina screamed. Not in fear. In rage. She tore through the attackers with bare hands, blood and sparks flying. When it was over, she dropped beside him. "You're not dying on me. I haven't finished learning." He managed a half smile. "You passed the test." But she didn't smile back. Instead, she touched his face, gently this time, and said, "Now I make the rules." He passed out before he could respond. When he woke up, the ship's med bay ceiling stared down at him. But Zaina was there. Sitting, waiting. "You stayed," he croaked. "I never left." He reached for her hand, and this time, she didn't pull away. Outside, the war still raged. But inside that room, an unspoken treaty had been sealed. Not with words, but with fire tamed, not extinguished. And in that stillness, something deeper than order was born. 3 weeks passed, and the space between Rian and Zaina had transformed into something unspoken but undeniable. She no longer challenged every word he said, but she also didn't submit. What formed between them was more than peace. It was trust. Tense, complicated, magnetic. Their missions continued. They traveled from one volatile colony to another, restoring order, rescuing civilians, disabling rogue AI stations. And always, Zaina was by Rian's side. Her presence no longer questioned. Her name now carried weight, not suspicion. But the galaxy doesn't forgive easily. One evening, a classified message came in, encrypted in an old Terran code. Rian recognized the header immediately. Council Directive 042, Target Extraction, codename ZE-13. He froze. Zaina. The file had been dormant for years. A ghost from before he'd even taken command of his cruiser. ZE-13 was flagged as a potential threat to galactic integration, a subject of interest from the Halvex experiments. The file labeled her as unstable, dangerous, disposable. The mission parameters were clear. If the subject could not be controlled, she was to be eliminated. Rian closed the file without reading further. The air felt heavier now. She entered moments later, carefree, humming something in her language. When she saw his face, the melody stopped. "What is it?" she asked. "Nothing," he lied. Her smile faded. "Don't do that." Orders came in. Old ones. She said nothing. He looked up at her. "You were on their list. A long time ago." "Of course I was," she said quietly. "I always was." "You knew." "I guessed." She sat across from him. "I wasn't born to follow rules. My people made me to break them." He studied her face. "You're not the same person from that file." "No," she agreed. "But the council doesn't care who I am now. Only what I was created to be." He stood abruptly. "Then I'll delete the file. You're not a target anymore." She smiled, but it was a sad thing. "You can't erase what they fear, Rian. You can only protect me until they fear you more." He hated how right she was. The next day, the council sent a ship. Not a diplomatic vessel, a Black Ops destroyer, cloaked in stealth plating. It entered orbit unannounced. No hails. No formal demands. Just one transmission: surrender the Halvex subject. Or be classified as rogue. Rian stood on the deck, fists clenched. Zaina walked beside him, watching the stars. "You should let me go," she said. "You'll be branded a traitor." "Let them brand me," he said. "I'm not handing you over. I was made to survive. You weren't. You were made for war. But you learned peace." She turned to him. "Because of you." He stepped closer. "Then let's fight together." She nodded. The battle was swift and brutal. Rian's crew fought like hell, but they were outgunned. That's when Zaina revealed the part of herself she'd hidden: energy manipulation. Halvex DNA wasn't just a myth. She could harness plasma, bend light, burn through hulls. It was beautiful. Terrifying. And it cost her. By the time the council ship retreated, Zaina collapsed on the deck, glowing veins dimming, breath shallow. "Don't," Rian said, dropping to his knees beside her. "Stay with me." She reached up, touched his chest plate. "You taught me discipline, now teach me how to stay." He held her hand tight. "I'm not letting you go." Medics worked fast. Stabilized her. But she would never be the same. The surge had changed her, her cells unstable, her body caught between energy and matter. Days later, she awoke in isolation, not a prison, but a containment chamber designed for her protection. And his. She looked up and saw Rian through the glass. He hadn't left. "I told you I'm not going anywhere," he said. She smiled weakly. "Then start learning my language. You're stuck with me." He leaned his forehead against the glass. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. Even if it meant rewriting what discipline meant in the stars. The months that followed tested them both in ways no war ever had. Zaina's containment chamber was slowly upgraded not to imprison her, but to adapt to her evolving physiology. The energy she had unleashed during the battle had fundamentally changed her. She could no longer remain fully solid for extended periods, her form flickering in and out of molecular cohesion. At first, it frightened her. She feared she had become something even less human, less alive. But Rian never left. Every day, he sat just outside the barrier. He read to her. Told her stories of Earth. brought her relics from the worlds they once visited together. A feather from the flying serpents of Draction. A vial of starlight water from the frozen seas of Nolaprime. And he trained. Because while the council had retreated, they hadn't forgotten. They sent spies. Warnings. Even an assassination drone that nearly vaporized Rian in his sleep. It was Zaina who saved him, teleporting from her chamber in a surge of unstable light to intercept the blast, absorbing most of it. Her body barely reformed afterward, but she survived. The medics said she couldn't keep doing it. The molecular cost was too high. But Zaina had made a choice. She refused to fade away quietly. Instead, she embraced her transformation. With Rian's help and the engineering team's support, they developed a stabilization suit, part technology, part biology. It was painful to wear. It anchored her to reality, straining every atom in her form. But it allowed her to walk among them again. And when she did, the crew stood in silence. Not in fear. In awe. She looked like something from legend, silver-white eyes, suit glowing with internal plasma veins, her every step humming with restrained power. She was no longer just Zaina, the wild girl from Halvex. She was something new. They began to call her the Sentinel. Rian reinstated her rank unofficially, his second-in-command. The Terran Alliance tried to object. But when they sent another ship to confront them, it didn't last 10 minutes in orbit before retreating. Not because of violence. But because Rian broadcasted the truth. He showed the galaxy who Zaina really was. A protector. A student. A survivor. And a beacon of what cooperation between species could become when fear didn't dictate the rules. The Council never tried again. Years passed. The ship became a roaming station for peacekeeping missions, handling conflicts on the edge of the stars. Rian and Zaina's bond grew not through control or defiance, but through mutual understanding. Their story became legend among newer recruits. The commander and the wild one. One who upheld law. And one who taught him that rules are only as strong as the people willing to understand when to break them for the right reasons. One quiet evening, years later, they stood together on the observation deck. The galaxy stretched endlessly beyond the glass. You still watching me like I might misbehave? Zaina teased. He smirked. I hope you do. She stepped closer. I'm still learning. He pulled her into his arms. And I'm still here to teach. Then silence. Not empty. Full. Peaceful. *** moral of the story ***. Discipline isn't about control, it's about growth. True connection isn't forged through force, but through patience, understanding, and the willingness to stand beside someone even when the world says not to. Sometimes, the wildest hearts only need someone strong enough to believe in them and brave enough to let them choose their own way forward. And sometimes, love isn't soft. It's forged in war, anchored by trust, and tested by stars.